Good evening and welcome to a new episode of Unspun. I'm your host, Mark Besant. Often branded as spin doctors, journalists are sometimes accused of twisting the facts. We want to guarantee you that we'll unspin that theory. Over the next hour, this comprehensive show will bring you up to speed with the stories that matter the most to you, our viewers. We're digging deep to bring you investigative and special reports and to always ensure it's all factual. In this episode, we take an in-depth look into the Sean Luke trial that has generated keen public interest with senior court reporter Derek Achong. And later, Joshua Simangal investigates why the Trinidad and Tobago Archery Federation, almost 30 years later, is displaced from a Chaguaramas home. And another segment of The Missing, a Mova girl who has disappeared without a trace for more than 6 years. A family craves for closure. So stay tuned for another riveting episode of Unspun.
Welcome to Food Basket Marketplace Chauffleur, where our mission is driven by premium products, customer care, and safe and secure, luxurious shopping. The finest meats, organic fruits and vegetables, all your market needs. Pick up a hot meal to go at our deli counter with an in-house pharmacy and state-of-the-art bakery. Food Basket Marketplace Chauffleur, where shopping is a pleasure and the price is right.
Did you know that bacteria remains in the stains on their clothes and they can cause diseases? Breeze detergent is also antibacterial. It kills 99.9% of bacteria. Breeze antibacterial detergent.
Yes, Breeze is proven effective against COVID-19.
Years ago, the country was left shocked and outraged by the murder of 6-year-old Sean Luke. Much like the recent murder of Andrea Barrett, Luke's death caused massive public outcry and galvanized citizens against violent crime. Still, many years later, the mere mention of Luke's name is enough to bring back haunting memories in the minds of some who never even knew him. Luke's murder and the community of Henry Street, Orange Valley Road in Couva has come under the spotlight again with the start of the trial of 2 men charged with committing the murder as children. I sat down with Unspun host and lead editor of the investigative desk, Mark Besant, to surmise what has transpired in the case, which seeks to bring justice for Luke and his family.
Based on the evidence presented before Justice Lisa Ramsmere Hines, what do prosecutors contend happened to Sean Luke over 15 years ago?
Prosecutors are contending that on March 26, 2006, that Luke would have gone on a fishing expedition with a group of children and teens from his community. 2 days later, his body was found in a sugarcane field next to his house. An autopsy revealed that he was sodomized with a sugarcane stalk and died of internal injuries. Prosecutors are mainly relying on the evidence of 2 of the children who would have gone on the fishing expedition, Avis Pradeep and Avinash Babulal. Both Pradeep and Babulal claim that the accused, Akil Mitchell and Richard Chetu, would have invited Luke to accompany them on the fishing expedition but would have diverted and gone into the cane field with him while the others waited. Pradeep and Babulal claimed that they heard a strange noise. One claimed that it was a squeal, like a microphone, and the other claimed it was a scream. Neither went into the cane field and followed the trio to see what happened. There were some inconsistencies with their evidence because they admitted that they initially lied to police because they were fearful that they would be framed for the murder. There were some inconsistencies in their evidence as well because Pradeep claimed that Mitchell and Chetu and Luke would have diverted into the sugarcane field after the fishing expedition, while Babulal would have claimed it occurred before they reached the river where they were going to fish.
Now, can you give us an insight into the accused, Ricardo Chetu and Akil Mitchell?
Yeah. So Richard Chetu was 15 at the time, and he was Luke's neighbor. Luke's mother, Pauline Barrett, claimed that Chetu would usually pass when he's going to the shop, call out to Luke and her, play with him occasionally, buy snacks for him, and bring it back from the shop. Mitchell is Chetu's stepfather's nephew. He would have moved in with Chetu's family a few weeks before Luke went missing.
Right now,
he was 13 years old at the time.
Now, besides Babulal and Pradeep's testimony, what other evidence has been presented against both the accused so far?
So the prosecutors are also relying on an interview which Chetu would have allegedly given to police after his arrest. Chetu's lawyers are claiming that the interview, he was coerced into participating in the interview and was threatened into confessing to his role to the crime. There is also DNA evidence in the case which links Mitchell to a DNA profile that was found on Luke's underwear. There was a second foreign DNA profile on Luke's underwear, but it was not linked to Chetu.
Now, interesting you speak about, for the sake of viewers, sorry. Is this the first local case in which DNA evidence has been used?
This is not the first case in which DNA evidence was used locally, but it is the first case in which a local DNA lab would have done the DNA test in a case. The Forensic Science Center in St. James had the capabilities to do DNA testing previously, but when the request was made by prosecutors in 2018, the machinery wasn't calibrated and was certified a private lab in Woodbrook to do the test.
Now, so what is the current state of the trial, and when can we expect a verdict in this trial, which has been going on for approximately 7 weeks?
This has already completed the evidence of 36 witnesses, over 3 dozen witnesses in the case. They are currently on their last witness, which is the lead investigator who would have led the interview with Chetu and would have charged the duo after completing the investigation. After that is complete, the defense would be able to present their case to the accused men. Chetu has indicated that he would go into the witness box and testify in his defense. Mitchell has elected to stay silent, but has indicated that he plans to call 2 witnesses, including a pathologist who would have done a second autopsy on Luke's body and ruled that he died of strangulation as opposed to the internal injuries from being sodomized with the cane stuff. After that is complete, then Justice Ramsmere Hines will consider the evidence in the case and the law and determine the man's innocence or guilt.
I think one of the burning questions on social media over the last couple of months prior or even during the commencement of the trial was, why did it take this particular case so long to get to trial? If you can shed some light on that.
Well, there's a well-known backlog of criminal cases awaiting trial in the High Court. There are possibly over 1,000 murder trials that are awaiting trial in the High Court right now. Just because a case is deemed high profile by the police, the media, the public, does not mean that it can jump the queue of cases that were already awaiting trial when that case joined the queue. So that coupled with the fact that, there was delays in the DNA testing and, there are pre-trial issues which have to be resolved. When taken in a combination, it usually takes a decade for anybody who is charged with murder to really face trial in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not unusual in any way, shape, or form.
Clearly, of course, we're moving here to this is a juryless trial, so there is hope for the future, I guess, if for some people who think that this might be the way to go, correct?
Well, with the pandemic, they have not, the jury trials have not been possible, but quite a few accused have elected to have juryless trials. It is much quicker. Because the judge considers the evidence in the case. There are not procedural issues with jurors. Jurors are not absent. They are not late. So the case goes on a lot quicker. The thing is that most accused prefer jury trials. They feel safer with jury trials that the jury will, a jury of their peers would, consider the evidence in the case, the nuances, the society, and give them a fair judges. But the accused elected to go the route of a juryless trial.
Last question, Derek. As a senior reporter, I know if they are found guilty, I know that these crimes had been committed when they were minors. How does the court address or deal with that matter?
So because they're minors, they're being tried as minors because Mr. Chetu was 15 at the time and Mitchell was 13 years old. Circumstances, a person convicted of murder faces the death penalty of hanging. Because the law condemned children, because they were minors when they committed it, they will be held at the court. If they are indeed convicted at the end of the day, they will be held at the court's pleasure, and it is possible that they can be released once the court is eventually satisfied that they have been rehabilitated and are fit to return to society.
Right, Derek, I'm keeping tabs on this trial as we go forward, and we hope to have another discussion with you and not too distant future. So thanks so much for your insight.
Thank you, Mark, for having me.
You're welcome. We're certainly going to keep you on top of the Sean Luke trial in upcoming episodes. Don't go anywhere, much more up next.
Finally, here's a big plus for drivers aged 50 and over from Beacon. Enjoy 50 plus motor insurance with multiple coverage options, fixed rates, and installments from as low as $150 per month. Call 623-2266 or log on to beacon.co.tt and get driving with Beacon today.
Pump it up with Quicks. One pump and you're pumping. Dishes done, you're smiling. Pump it up with Quicks. Keep pumping. Pump it up some more. Pump it up.
Collect your new Quicks for free in stores nationwide.
Pump it up with Quicks. Pump it up.
Each one of the aces is for each of you.
Sign our name.
Yes, make it nice and big. All the aces has your name on it. Hold it nice and tight. Slowly lift up your hands. You made it back. Brand new sealed deck of cards.
It's really good.
Take out the cellophane. Ace to king, ace to king, ace to king. Except for one difference. The ace of spade has your name on it. Thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoy the ride.
America's Got Talent, Tuesday at 8 p.m. only on CNC3.
A veces las cosas suceden tan rápido van, tan rápido vienen y casi no hay.
Tune in to Color of Passion, Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. only on CNC3.
Welcome back to Unspun. When one thinks of ranges and chagaramas, for the most part, the first thing that comes to mind is the Tucker Valley Rifle Range. But for more than 3 decades, shooting enthusiasts have also been firing arrows rather than bullets at the Michael Mackenzie Archery Range. However, the range's future is at serious risk, and it appears as though the last arrow may have been shot in the northwestern peninsula. Joshua Simangal investigates.
For more than 30 years, the Michael Mackenzie Archery Range in Tucker Valley Road, Chagaramas,
has been the home of archery in Trinidad and Tobago. The range's origins date back to the early 90s when a newly formed TNT Target Archery Federation began laying the bricks of the sport's foundation. Given archery's use of projectiles, only an open expanse of land away from passers-by and activities could be used as a range. With founding members looking for a site in the west of the country, Tucker Valley was a logical fit. After receiving permission from then Chief of Defense Staff Joseph Theodore, the Federation turned the forested area into a competition-worthy venue. Evidence of written exchanges between the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force and the Federation can be found in documents obtained by Unspun. In December 1991, the Federation wrote then Chief of Defense Staff Joseph Theodore seeking an area in Tucker Valley to practice archery. Responding, the Defense Force acknowledged the request, asking the Federation for a meeting. In a subsequent letter from the Federation in August 1992, the Federation sought confirmation of an agreement to use the site that became the Michael Mackenzie Range. Then, in 2009, the Federation made another request to continue using the range, which was approved by Lieutenant Colonel Carter a year later.
I would say from circa 1992-93, we've been in conversations with the Army, with the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, for the use of this ground. We have always been under the feeling, the understanding, that this area from the road to the north to beyond the Pistol Range, Trap Mesquite Range to the south, this valley was under the control of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, and we were here by their authority. This field over the years has been developed. We have gotten a lot of money. I would say we spent about $500,000 in developing this field. Money that we got by subvention from the Ministry of Sport to develop the sport of archery. And we had our building, we had our shed, we had our shooting line. This was the location where we conducted all national tournaments.
There's a reason why King spoke about the range in the past tense. The Michael Mackenzie Archery Range is no more. Following failed negotiations beginning last December, the Chaguaramas Development Authority evicted the Federation from the lot adjacent to UPIC in April. King suggested the CDA could have been more accommodating given the significance of the site to the sport.
There were negotiations going on. They wanted rent. And I believe the figure they called was $30,000 a month. We can't afford that. There were some negotiations. It came down to $4,500 a month for 1 year and then renegotiate again. This is something we as a non-profit organization relying almost totally on subvention from the ministry and from whatever monies we make from training and teaching and classes of that nature. Maybe 3 weeks ago, there were bulldozers in here that the current executive of the Federation came in and took out. We were told take out whatever was our possessions. We had containers down there that we took out. There was a container up there, a Sealand container up there that we took out. There was the shed. There was a DOS booth. The DOS is the director of shooting, and he has to sit on an elevated platform for security reasons, safety reasons. That was taken out, and for some reason, the place was demolished.
Just like that, more than 3 decades of hard work and perseverance was gone, King lamented. Something that he and other founding members said they're finding it difficult to take. They believed the closure of the range signified far more than just the end of the facility.
It's very, very unfortunate because the sport of archery took off and was doing wonderful things. We have represented Trinidad and Tobago from Argentina to Egypt. You know, we've been into a lot of different places in the world and in the Caribbean. Where are we going to have our training? The club that operated here had to scamper around to see if they could find a ground to use. Now, archery is not like football. You could go and kick a ball just about anywhere. But archery is the shooting of an arrow, of a projectile. And that has to be done in a safe environment. The word I could use is hurtful, because it's many, many years, a lot of negotiations with the Ministry of Sport, a lot of documentation, a lot of planning, what is our progress to advance the sport. And one of the things was to build this and to use this to advance the sport, and we're doing well. When the first time Trinidad went away to shoot in an archery tournament, I went with that team, and that was to Cuba. I mean, it really is a very proud moment for any athlete to walk into a stadium and see their flag, to put their flag on their chest and say, I am representing Trinidad and Tobago. This was a key element in developing archers to go out and do Trinidad and Tobago proud. And there's a challenge now as to where we're going to go.
Evictions from the Northwest Peninsula have historically been a source of controversy. In 1941, scores of villagers, some granted land by the Crown pre-independence, were evicted to make way for American military occupation during World War II. The villagers were never allowed to return, and only after protests and political pressure was the area returned to TNT by the US in 1963. In 2013, under the PP government, attempts were made by the Chaguaramas Development Authority to evict the Chaguaramas Military Museum, as well as farmers and other state agencies. In protest of the evictions, hundreds marched from Chaguaramas to Port of Spain. However, the circumstances involving the closure of the archery range are very different to those previously mentioned cases. According to current president of the TNT Target Archery Federation, Hazmath Ali, he has no complaints about how the CDA handled the eviction. He said although the Federation received permission from the Defense Force to use the range over the years, the agreement was never formalized. According to Ali, the TTTAF was given the opportunity to acquire the land under a lease agreement. The initial offer by the CDA, he confirmed, was around $30,000 per month, but was eventually negotiated down to $4,500 per month.
The CDA was quite professional in the way they operated. We had opportunities to sit with the CDA board, meet with them. They indicated to us clearly our position, meaning the Federation's position, in light of the occupation of the land. They did not bully the Federation in any way. We had cordial discussions with them. And after the discussions, I would be honest, we really found ourselves, meaning the Federation, in a position where we couldn't pay what was being asked of us. The way the CDA calculated the rental value of the land was upfront in terms of they hired a surveyor and they had the value system and value the property, and based on that, our rental value for the amount that was occupied by us was offered to us, and we really couldn't pay it. We didn't have that kind of financing to pay on a month-to-month basis.
According to Ali, the future of the sport is promising despite losing its former home. He said there are a number of archery clubs around the country with access to their own ranges. The Federation's founder, David King, hoped predictions of a bright future for archery were accurate.
I am really hoping that the sport can carry on, because my focus in starting archery in this country and in seeing it grow has been very rewarding.
Under the Chaguaramas Development Authority Act, the authority has the legal authority to undertake and secure the undertaking of the laying out and development of the Northwest Peninsula. The Act also states that the authority has the power to acquire, transfer, donate, exchange, gift or grant any real or personal property or any estate or interest therein by virtue of a vesting order to be signed by the President. What this means in relation to the archery range is that although the Federation was granted permission by the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force over 3 decades to use the property, the CDA legally controls the property. Unspun attempted to contact the Chaguaramas Development Authority about the matter, but attempts over 3 weeks to do so were unsuccessful. Attempts to confirm with the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force over more than 2 weeks were also unsuccessful.
Certainly a very interesting story there by Joshua. Don't go anywhere, much more up next. The Missing.
Recession have you down? Don't lose hope. Head on down to Tire Clinic for the recession deals. Big savings with a road hazard warranty on Dunlop, Sumitomo, and Falcon tires. Available at Tire Clinic, Couva, Chaguanas, and Pleasant Park. Tire Clinic, a tire for every need.
Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Coming exclusively to CNC3.
Welcome back to Unspun. At just 17 years old, Rukaya St. Louis Swan left the Barrett area home in 2016, but never returned. For close to 5 years, her mother and 6 siblings have been left wondering where she went, but are no closer to knowing. Despite this, however, they remain hopeful that she's somewhere out there and that they will finally get the answers they've been looking for.
22-year-old Rukaya Amanda Sophia Aaliyah Johnson Strawn St. Louis Swan has a name worthy of matching her larger-than-life personality. But it's a warm and friendly disposition that her family only knew for 17 short years. On April 30th, 2016, Rukaya, then a Form 5 student at Moville Laventille Secondary, left her 8th Avenue Barrett area home. The talented hairstylist and aspiring beautician told relatives she was going to do the hair of 2 children living on 6th Avenue.
That was a Saturday morning. I'll never forget that morning. And she meet me, man. So she coming back just now, run back up the hill, kiss I and her stepfather. So she love her. I thought about just now because we was making jokes and things. And the girl leave and never come back. My mommy and my brother went to make the report at the Mova police station, and that was all. That was it. But I felt really heartbroken that day, like, what? You know, I didn't think that this happened to us and it could happen to anybody, you know, but this child was young. So, I mean, what she could have done to go missing.
According to Rukaya's mother, Avalon, police were slow to begin the search process at first. But when it became clear something was wrong, she said, they intensified their efforts. In the 5 years Rukaya went missing, there have been claims from multiple people that they've seen her. A family friend claimed they saw her on Maracas Beach with a group of people just months after her disappearance. The person said they spoke with her and even bought her drinks before leaving for Blanchard's. Others claimed to have seen her in Digger Martin, Cedrus, and even at the Port of Spain General Hospital. In May, less than a month after her disappearance, 3 mobile pictures of Rukaya were uploaded on Facebook by 2 different profiles. She did not appear in distress. Unspun attempted to contact the people who uploaded the pictures, but they did not respond to our messages. It's unclear whether police investigated this possible link.
Yes, I believe that she's out there still because one of the things that stuck with me, that my brother was telling me, like, stuck for years and years and years. He told me the week before she went missing, she was on the phone crying, you know, and he found it to be something like crying. Why she crying is he asked her what she crying for. And she seemed to be so timid, you know, like she not answering what it is when he asked her the question. He didn't give him any answer on why she was crying, and she looked like she was under pressure. I don't know. I feel she's somewhere out there. And one day she'll come right back to Shimon. Don't help me, God. That's how I just feel about the child. I am not a violent person, so, you know, I would like to leave them. Justice will be served. Not from God, but from God, not from man. Anybody that do anything, I leave them to God. I know I had a humble child who one day would I get married to somebody nice, and I would have been speechless, walking and coming up the hill with your little ones, and they're running up, granny, you know. I know that.
The case has gone cold.
But relatives are hoping that the investigation into Rukiah's disappearance is reopened. Haunted by a lack of closure, they long to know the truth. Where did their Rukiah go? And is she okay? Someone out there holds the answers to those questions.
I would love to tell her that, no matter whatever had happened in her life, that she went missing, whatever it is, we put it behind us and, we just want to show her the love and how much we love her and care for her, not just me, but our whole entire family and friends, her teachers, her brother, everybody.
And Rukiah, to you, I love you. This is your sister Precious, saying what she thinks from her heart. You know how I am, a very genuine person and very heartfelt as well, and tears in my eye right now, thinking about it every day. You have nieces and nephews, I'm sure they ask about you.
Don't go anywhere, much more up next. The Missing.
Come on, who are you?
We're the Curtis family C-Note.
America's Got Talent, Tuesday at 8 p.m. only on CNC3.
With many more families now faced with stay-at-home orders due to the pandemic, a worrying trend has been emerging. This trend does not spell good news for mainly women, as the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Gender-Based Violence Unit says there are increasing reports of domestic violence linked to lockdown measures implemented by the government to halt the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Jesse Ramdale spoke with ASP Claire Guy Allen of that unit, who's encouraging victims to utilize the police's various platforms for assistance. Here's that interview.
Welcome, Superintendent Claire Guy Allen. Thank you so much for joining me on where we look at different elements of the COVID-19 pandemic. You're the head of the Gender-Based Violence Unit. How have you been doing so far?
I have been doing great.
Superintendent, getting straight into the interview, we would have had a discussion just over the weekend, and in that discussion, you would have revealed something very, very alarming, that there's been an uptick in reports of domestic violence. Can you share a bit more about that for us, please?
We have had an increase in the gender-based domestic violence report, but we have two things happening at the same time in Trinidad and Tobago. Globally, there has been an increase in domestic violence report due to the pandemic, but the Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, and his executive would have launched the Gender-Based Violence Unit in January of 2020, and shortly after we had the pandemic coming into play. Now, the Gender-Based Violence Unit comprises of highly trained and professional officers. And due to the formation of the unit, the atmosphere that has been created within this unit may be one of the reasons why persons are reporting domestic violence more. Now, domestic violence has always been around with us. It has always been here. But sometimes, persons, it's a very evasive topic that a lot of people would like to stay away from. So you would find long ago, persons were not feeling comfortable to even have that conversation. Persons would be hurting in silence. But now within the TTPS, we have created this avenue where persons can feel comfortable and confident that their report will be dealt with the strictest of confidentiality and the sensitivity that is required.
Now, Mrs. Guy Allen, isolation has shattered support networks, making it very difficult for victims to escape and get the help that they need, right? What's your message for persons who are faced with this situation? How can they access help during these times?
Well, we are living in really special times, and I don't want victims to feel as though there are no avenues where they can make their reports or their reports will not be dealt with. I want victims or survivors of domestic violence to make your reports. We have very innovative ways in which reports can be made. A lot of persons, the majority of persons within Trinidad and Tobago have access to the internet, as well as they have access to a cell phone, an Android phone. And there are many ways that a report can be made to the police. We are asking persons to take advantage and use these avenues to make report. Reports can be made via the 999, the 555-800 tips. We have the recently launched the online reporting, as well as the TTPS app. And the TTPS app, I'm asking every person throughout Trinidad and Tobago to download that app. That app has a SOS feature that can be activated in the case of an emergency so that the police can know your location and the police can be alerted that something is happening and the police can intervene to assist.
Mrs. Guy Allen, is there cause for concern that in addition to the pandemic, we can now see a possible crisis rising from increased opportunities for perpetrators of domestic violence?
And we can say yes, I can say yes to that answer, because to that question in particular, because we are in a pandemic. We have a SOE that is taking place at the moment, and rightfully so. We have to understand the purpose and the reason behind everything. Our numbers are increasing in the COVID-19 cases. And the SOE, you know, the lockdown, everything is needed at this time. Everything is needed. And it is an avenue where some perpetrators may feel that this is a time that they can, you know, take advantage of victims. But I would like victims to understand and perpetrators to understand that now is not the time for that. Now is not the time for that. Yes, you are locked away for longer hours. We are spending more time in each other's face, but let us do some research. Let us go on the internet, learn how to deal with conflict. Let us use this opportunity where we can learn as a family and grow as a family. Whenever we feel the tension building up in the family, let us understand coping mechanisms. There are lots of the TTPS Victim and Witness Support Unit that can be contacted for assistance and help, psychosocial help within the family. You have the family hotline. We have access to a lot of things on the internet, and I am asking for the public to take advantage of these avenues where you can seek help, because you don't want, it's a pandemic and you have to be reported for domestic violence and you have to end up in a cell. You put yourself and other person at risk. Let us learn how to deal with family conflict in an amicable and sensible way.
Mrs. Guy Allen, thank you so very much for joining us and sharing this valuable information with us and allowing the information to reach the public. Thank you so very much, ma'am.
Thank you for having us as well.
Take good care.
Thanks so much for joining us here on this edition of Unspun. We hope to see you in 2 Sundays from now, where we're hoping to bring you a fresh batch of stories that matter to you. If you have any story tips for Unspun, please ensure you drop us a line or email us at unspun@cnc3.co.tt or call us at 800-CNC3. Until then, have a good one. And remember, be the change you want to see in the world. And please, stay safe and stay home.